Sooner Nation, Longhorn fans, welcome to episode 168 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, we will talk about it at the end of the podcast because this is an Oklahoma, Texas football / sports podcast. But we will talk about it. And I will want to know, did Josh Allen make the line to gain? Because it sure looked like he did to me. And it sure looked like it did to the official at the top of the screen who came in a full 6 inches ahead of the line and somehow just kept working his way back. But we'll talk about it, Kevin. Don't feel like you have to defend the NFL right now. That's what I feel like you're going to do. I feel like you're going to defend the NFL and you're going to defend the Chiefs and you're going to be on Kelsey's football sack. But I don't want any of that from you, okay? I just want you to know, from you when we discuss it, if he made the line to gain. Do you have an answer ready when I ask you at the end of the show?
I'm ready now if you're going to ask me now, so yes.
Did he make the line to gain? Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, it's so interesting, right? For being such a huge company, the National Football League, for us to still be measuring the distance like we do, it's absurd, man. Can we microchip the football?
But did they even bring the chains out?
No, they didn't even measure it.
They didn't even. Now, part of that was that the line was like right on the yard line. I don't know if it was on the 40 or on the 50. It was like right on the yard line. So I think they kind of use that as the reference. But it was all the more glaring for the official at the top of the screen to come in where he came in at.
Correct. Yeah. But the fact that we expect the line judges to identify where the football is
in a mass
in between a bunch of 300-pound guys and figure out this is exactly and walk a straight line to the football. Again, there's got to be a technical way that we can do this. Tennis has a way to see if the ball's out of bounds. We've got to have a better way.
I don't want to get off on a tangent here too soon, but possibly the Bills might not run that play 4 times in a row, 4 times unsuccessfully. Is that maybe a suggestion, though, in this situation?
That's a great suggestion. Didn't love the play calling from Buffalo.
Oh, dude, you got Cook. Is it James Cook? You got James Cook running.
Who was really good, by the way. He's such a talented player.
Oh, my God. Running that touchdown he had. Okay, look.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to this. Kevin, stop it. It's an OU Texas podcast. Let's talk about the misfortunes, the continuing misfortunes of Oklahoma football. We find out, I think it was on Sunday, from the voice of the Sooners, Toby Rowland, breaking some news that indeed Jim Knowles bypassed the University of Oklahoma to accept an offer to be the next defensive coordinator at Penn State, working under James Franklin. Reportedly, 3 years, $9.3 million for a defensive coordinator. Let's just start with let's just put the OU stuff on pause for a second. What does it say about the environment at Ohio State that you can win a national championship, win the first ever 12-team playoff, have the number 1 ranked defense, and immediately following the game be looking for a way out of town? What in the hell is going on in Columbus?
Very
that's the case.
When we heard these rumors that Jim Knowles would be interested in the OU opening, it just didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense at all. It's like, yeah, you got the top defense. You're about to win the Natty. You've got the best defense in the country. And they're number 1 in so many categories, right? They're number 1 against the run, number 1 in scoring, number 1 in the red zone. Just
number 1 every category. Honestly, number 1 for the eye test, too. Like, you just look at them and you're like, my God, those guys are really, really good. Outside of the Michigan game, which
they were good on defense that game, too.
But I was guilty as much as anybody saying, well, I mean, they lost to Michigan, so maybe they can lose to Tennessee. They lost to Michigan, maybe they can lose to whoever else they played. Stop.
Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame.
Stop it. They were the best team in the country.
They were the best team. Yeah.
Let's talk.
So interesting to just think about a guy wanting out and for it to happen that quickly. And we were hearing this before they even played the national championship game. And we're all just trying to figure out why the hell would the architect of the nation's #1 defense be looking for other jobs. So but from what I've heard, and shout out to the guys at Sooner Scoop who were saying how Jim Knowles apparently reached out to Venables shortly after Zach Alley left for West Virginia to express his interest in the Oklahoma defensive coordinator position.
That is bizarre. That is just bizarre. There's no logical explanation besides either Jim Knowles is a major a-hole or Ryan Day and the defensive line coach are major a-holes. Or maybe they all are. It's possible they all are.
That is true. And they're just kind of butting heads, right? A bunch of.
But there's no other way to describe it. But dudes don't go looking for lateral positions, Kevin.
Yeah.
Lateral position at Penn State. Look, it's a good job. It's a very good job. He's got plenty of talent to work with.
You're moving down. You're going backwards a little bit.
I think you don't have Abdul Carter coming back. You've got a lot of talent there. Franklin's
Dennis Sutton is coming back. But, yeah, you lose a stud, an absolute superstar. I mean, I've seen mock drafts that have Abdul Carter going #1.
I don't know.
He must have wanted out. And there are rumors going on about some friction between him and the defensive line coach, Larry Johnson, who's been around forever. Right? I mean, he's been around. So, remember his son, Penn State running back, Larry Johnson, who had a great career at Penn State and great career at NFL with the Chiefs. So yeah, I mean, this guy's one of the most respected defensive line coaches in the country. And apparently there was some kind of rift between him and Knowles about how the defensive line was being used in his systems. And I just wonder if Knowles was looking for full autonomy somewhere, which, maybe why he chose Penn State, not OU, because it's hard to imagine him having 100% autonomy over the defense with Brent Venables being there. What do you think?
Well, okay. So in our previous podcast, we talked about what it would look like if Jim Knowles came. And we talked about more from the Brent Venables side of things. Can he give it up? Can he abdicate his role as defensive coordinator? Can he trust Jim Knowles to do the planning? All of those. We came at it from a Brent Venables perspective. And looking at it from a Jim Knowles perspective, I mean, if he's the one reaching out, it's really odd. And then number two, a couple of episodes ago, when we first talked about the potential of a Jim Knowles, I just thought it was a pipe dream, Kevin. It was so out of the blue and unlikely. And offline, just in conversations with friends and stuff, it's like, this is not going to happen. And then it got really, really, really serious.
It seemed for a while there like it seemed almost inevitable.
It seemed inevitable, but clearly it wasn't. I guess my question is, for Oklahoma fan, it just feels like a loss in a season of losses, right? It feels like we went up against Penn State, we went up against Ohio State, and we lost.
Yeah.
My question, though, is if you'd asked an Oklahoma fan 3 weeks ago, hey, you think you're going to get Jim Knowles?
Laugh in your face. What do you mean Jim Knowles? What are you talking about?
That's just like engagement. It'd be like engagement clickbaiting online. No, we're not getting Jim Knowles. He's a defensive coordinator. It's like if we would have never known about this, I think Oklahoma's psyche would be in a lot better spot.
Yeah, I mean, you know how it is, right? Anytime you're in the running for something and then that person chooses someone else, it hurts, right? Even if I don't know how much he would have helped your team. Maybe he takes over the defense and Venables can focus on the team and the roster. Maybe it helps a lot. But again, defense, it's not like you guys were horrible, like you're coming off one of the Lincoln Riley years. and Jim Knowles is available. If that were the case, if you had a Lincoln Riley defense last year and Jim Knowles is available and he chooses Penn State, then you have the right to really be upset because this is a guy who can completely flip the program like Lincoln Riley did for your offense back in 2015. But, your top 30 unit last year.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. I guess the problem for me is the thought that we had an opportunity to give Brent Venables everything he needs and to remove him from that role to allow him to be a head coach and, more importantly, a game manager. If you really think about it, there are very few coaches that call the defense and are the head coach. Okay? Kirby tried to do it at Georgia for like 3 or 4 seasons, and finally he had to hand the reins over to Dan Lanning and go, "You've got this. I'm going to be the head coach." And that's when they really started winning. That's what pushed them over the edge of Alabama to get their 2 national championships, right? Nick Saban is a defensive-minded coach, but he was not the defensive coordinator. Bob Stoops was a defensive-minded coach, not a defensive coordinator. Kevin, does Dan Lanning call the defense at Oregon?
That I'm not sure of. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Does Marcus Freeman call the defense for Notre Dame?
No.
It doesn't look like it.
Al Golden was the defensive play caller, who is actually now the defensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals, by the way. So they were kind of involved in this Jim Knowles sweepstakes as well.
Well, but my point being is just because Brent Venables is really good as a defensive coordinator, it clearly hasn't translated to being a good defensive coordinator and a head coach.
Yeah. There's so many hats you have to wear as a head coach. Sometimes wearing that DC hat just a little too heavy. And there's questions with Sark on that too.
Well, I think there are questions with Sark, right? We think about Sark getting into his head too much, setting stuff up. I didn't like it. Listen, Lincoln Riley's offenses at times in Oklahoma and at USC can stall. And sometimes I wondered, especially when he was in Oklahoma and he was the head coach, was he consciously making plays thinking about what his offense was doing to his defense?
Yeah.
And instead of just saying, as an offensive coordinator would, I'm going to go score touchdowns. I don't care about the defense. That's the defense's problem. If they can't stop anybody, then we'll just outscore them. But I don't care about the defense. That's what offensive coordinators typically do. Like I look at like Cliff Kingsbury. I think he's a great offensive coordinator at Washington. He's being interviewed by the Saints, right, for their head coaching spot.
I've heard that.
But I think they're stupid if they hire him. He's a really good offensive coordinator, but he's not a good head coach. He got fired at Texas Tech, his alma mater, for not even going 500. He couldn't do anything with Kyler Murray.
Not only did he fail to go 500, he failed to go 500 with Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You have the guy who would end up becoming one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
I mean, that's your first question in any interview, right? How did you not go 500 with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback? And and so I just say I'm throwing all these names out to go. The only, as far as defense, no, it's not a crisis point. It's not an area of emphasis and need. But what it is was a relief valve. I was hoping for him because listen, he had Ted Roof. Dude, he was running the defense. Ted Roof wasn't running the defense. Apparently, Brent Venables was so engaged in running the defense, and Zach Alley's like, I'm out. I'll leave for West Virginia just to be able to run my own defense. I mean, that's an indictment, Kevin. That's an indictment on Brent Venables' ability to delegate.
Yeah. It's hard, man, especially when you're a lifelong coordinator. I think it can be difficult for some guys to turn that switch off. Being the defensive coordinator and being the head coach. I remember when Texas hired Tom Herman, and they're asking him if he was going to call plays. He was a offensive coordinator at Ohio State when they won the national championship with Cardell Jones, a quarterback, 2014. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm not calling the plays. I don't understand how you can be the head coach and call the plays. It's too much going on during the game as the head coach to focus on that. I know Tom Herman was not great at Texas, but I thought that was an interesting point, especially seeing that him and Lincoln Riley got hired the same year. And we knew that Lincoln Riley would be calling the plays.
Listen, there are a few coaches in, I think of the NFL, right, who have been, well, like okay, let's just think about college coaches. Has there been any college coaches that are offensive-minded coaches that call the plays that have won the national championship? I don't think Ryan Day calls the plays, does he?
Well, this is the first year he hasn't. He turned that over to Chip Kelly. They hired Chip Kelly to do that.
Well, yeah. What am I saying? Of course not. Yes, Chip Kelly calls the plays. Okay.
So just this year, though, it's interesting, though, right? This is the first year that he has an offensive coordinator,
right?
And they win the Natty.
So then when you look at the defensive-minded coaches, we've talked about it. Not very many of them call the defense. Okay, in the pros in the NFL, you got like Sean Payton can do both. Yeah, and Andy Reid can do both.
Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan calls the offense.
Kyle Shanahan calls off. But listen, dude, at times you question San Francisco's in-game management.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. There's been times where you're like, he's an offense, and he's done more with less with Purdy and all of that. But I just mean from a success standpoint, right? Sean Payton's won a Super Bowl and had a long period of success. Andy Reid, obviously. Andy Reid, he wins here in 2 weeks, and Andy Reid, him and Bill Belichick are 1-1A.
Yeah, he's climbing the ranks big time. I'm looking back. I've got the last, several national champions here, and Michigan last year, Georgia twice, Alabama before that, LSU, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, Florida State in 2013. From what I know, Jimbo Fisher did call plays for Florida State.
Jimbo Fisher called plays, yep.
But other than that, looking back even before that, Alabama twice. You had Auburn with Cam Newton, Alabama in 2009, Florida in 2008. None of these guys had head coaches that call the offense or defense.
Yeah, either side. So look, I heard Bob Stoops today on the radio. And I think Bob Stoops, A, is a program guy, and B, has a tremendous amount of loyalty for Brent Venables. And he's like, I think you can do it. I think you can call defense, and I think you can. With all due respect to the best coach ever at the University of Oklahoma, he hasn't proven it yet through 3 seasons that he can do it. So I'm not there. And that's the only, once the Jim Knowles stuff heated up, it was not so much because we need defense. It's because our head coach needs to be a head coach. Okay. We've established that. All right. Potential DC targets. Wes Goodwin still hasn't been hired by Clemson. I think that could very easily fall back into a situation where Brent's still the DC, but who knows? This one, it was interesting to me. It's the first time I'd heard this one. Travis Williams from Arkansas.
Not too familiar, to be honest with you.
Scott Simons from SMU. Brian Brown from Ole Miss. He's a co-defensive coordinator and a DB coach. And then, of course, internal hires, Brandon Hall, Todd Bates, Jay Valai would be on that list. So, obviously, this is the dumbest thing I might ever say on this podcast. None of these guys have the cachet of Jim Knowles.
No, that's not dumb at all. That's fact.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's the most obvious thing I might say. But any of those names you hear, do you think addresses my concern that he needs to hand it over? Is there anybody there that he can hand the reins over? I think
the internal guys, it will be really hard for him to do that. Just to hand it over, and I'm just going to be the head coach. And I just, maybe he can be involved in game planning, but there's no way he's not going to be involved in game planning, the defense. But, he's got to find a way to somehow be able to trust the DC to call it. He's got to trust it. I know it seems like it's difficult, but you got to do it.
Who is Texas's offensive coordinator. Do you have an offensive coordinator, or
We do
is it
not
some?
have. Okay. Technically, Kyle Flood is listed as the co-offensive coordinator, along with Steve Sarkisian. But as we know, Kyle Flood is an offensive line coach. He's not calling plays at all.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
really, AJ Milwee, who's a quarterbacks coach, he's more Sark's right-hand man when it comes to the game plan and the play design and all that.
Hmm. Well, look, Sark's had a lot of success. 2 college football playoffs. That's a
Correct.
different.
And it's still top 10 offense.
It's a
Number one in
different.
explosive plays. It's just situational with him.
It's a different level of conversation than we're having with Brent Venables right now.
Correct.
Yeah. And so, okay.
Yeah, exactly. If you guys went 10-2 this year, nobody would care if Brent Venables was calling the defense.
I would encourage him to continue to call the defense if we went 10-2.
Exactly. Yeah, when you go into the college football playoff with Lincoln Riley, no one's like, "Oh, you need to hand over the play calling to somebody else." So,
yeah.
No. And that's what Sark. Sark, he's not going to give up the play calling. It's not going to happen. I don't think it ever happens.
No, and the margin is so thin that if he can identify what that gap is, it's not a great gap, right? It's not.
Correct.
If he can identify, hey, I'm having a problem with either time management or analytics or analytic decision making. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Red zone tendencies. Maybe he could work with the quarterback coach that you mentioned. What's the guy's name?
AJ Milwee.
And say, AJ, here's our gaps. I need help addressing these in-game situations. Like, what are we doing? Where are we missing? And when it occurs,
don't care, even if it's gimmicks. If you have to bring in
a
bulldozer package, I don't care. If it's in the goal line, I don't care.
Kevin, you don't need gimmicks from the 1 yard line, Kevin. You don't need gimmicks from the 1 yard line. You put Arch Manning in and run the ball up the middle. That's not a gimmick.
I agree, but that's kind of. I think when you guys had the bulldozer package back in the day, it's not necessarily a gimmick.
Okay, the tush push is
it's not your. Yeah, exactly. So it's something unconventional. If your normal hand it off to a running back from the 1 yard line, is for whatever reason, if that's not working, you got to figure out something else. Whether it's a tush push, which we'll get to the tush push, by the way.
There's multiple. We got multiple instances of tush pushes going all over the place. Real quick, before we transition to basketball between the University of Oklahoma and the University of Texas, we'll talk about both teams. Anything on the Texas football front, transfer portal, anything that we need to know about, or is things kind of quiet right now? Anything on recruiting?
Things are quiet. Portal's closed right now. So like I said, we made it through, only not losing any starters, which I'm happy about. Texas did have their junior day. No commitments yet, but this staff is not like Mac Brown back in the day where he'd have junior day and half the class was committed by junior day. That's how it was. Yeah. Basically, they would throw out the offers and the guys knew you either commit now or risk losing your spot, and they would, which was a blessing and a curse at the same time. You don't have senior evals with some of these guys, but it's not like that with this staff. This staff just likes to continue building relationships and then really push hard for commitments in the summer and early in the fall. So, also, I think we'll get to this, but Senior Bowl, we got a few guys there, and some mock drafts coming up. But I think we'll get to that later.
Okay. Let's give Texas a little bit of love in basketball. Really good comeback against little brother A&M to go 70-69. Trey Johnson goes for 30. At one point, you're down 22 in the second half. Is that right?
22 in the second half. That's right.
The other statistic
you scored 41-18 after that.
The other statistic you gave me is you only had the lead for 4 seconds of the game.
That's right.
The 4 seconds. The 4 seconds that matter. Here's the stat I pulled out though, and I was a basketball guy all growing up. I played at William Howard Taft High School and then at Mustang High School in Oklahoma, and refereed basketball for half a dozen years. And so I'm a basketball guy at heart. And my basketball knowledge or my basketball wisdom is limited to 2 things, Kevin. I can give you 2 stats, and I can almost always pick a winner within, if it's a single-digit game. Okay? If it's a single-digit game, I can almost always pick the winner based on these 2 stats. How many layups you missed and how many free throws you missed.
Okay.
Y'all, Texas, 82% free throws. Texas A&M, 37.5% free throws. If A&M makes their free throws, they win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a predictor in these close games. But free throw shooting at any level, Kevin, it doesn't matter. Now, layups tend to be a bigger issue at lower levels, like high school, JV, into middle school. Like, if you get a team that just can't make layups, they're not going to win the game. I know that's obvious. It means their skill level's up there, but just bunnies, right? Just things they should practice on. They can't do it. But yeah, 82% free throws. Dude, you shoot 82% free throws in the SEC. You're going to have a good chance of winning ball games.
You have a good chance. Yeah.
I see you got some stats. What are you showing me here?
Yeah, well, just, ESPN always has their win probability deal, right? We've seen this. I know OU fans like to show the one from the 2021 Red River Shootout when Texas was up 28-7. And yeah, kind of same thing here. Texas A&M, at one point here, I know this thing was right here, 97.6 win probability for Texas A&M with 13 minutes left in the second half. And yeah, Texas somehow able to climb their way back into it.
Well, hey man,
that gets a shot.
It gets you to 3 and 4 in the conference. We talked about this. We've talked about it, and we will talk about it. 500 in the SEC is going to get you into the tournament.
Yeah,
I really think so. Now, maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I don't think I will. I think if you're 500 in the SEC, this is proving to be. I didn't think it would be when we first moved into the SEC. It's proven to be a better basketball conference, at least this year. That Big 12 is still very good. Houston and Kansas. Speaking of Houston, Kansas, what a ball game between those two teams! Holy,
absolutely insane!
Oh, fantastic basketball at a very high level.
And the game after that, the Auburn and Tennessee, that was good, but not the quality wasn't there in that game. No, that Houston game had it all.
Kelvin Sampson and Bill Self might be the best two coaches in the game right now.
Yeah.
And Bill Self by far, but Kelvin Sampson's really good. Okay, anyway, so you're 3 and 4, so you're now within spitting distance. You are at number 23 Ole Miss on Wednesday. Ole Miss, though, even though they're number 23, they're only 4 and 3 in conference, so they haven't just gone off and left everybody or anything. They're number 23 because they've got a winning record in a very hard conference. And then you've got LSU on Saturday, unranked. LSU is 14th in the league, I think. I can tell.
They're 1 and 5 in the conference.
Yeah, so they're at 14. So Ole Miss is 9th. So they're number 23 in the country and 9th in the SEC. That would be, if you could pick up that win, that's a quad 1 win and get you to 500 in conference, which puts you in the tournament. Would you agree with that?
I think so. This league is stacked, man. It's crazy. You got Vanderbilt, who rushed the court twice this week with upsets.
Well, okay. So speaking of Vanderbilt, Oklahoma plays them Saturday. They will be number 24. Or at least they're number 24 right now. Vandy's also 4 and 3, similar to Ole Miss. But on Saturday night, OU played Arkansas, coached by John Calipari. OU at one point in the first half was up 12. They closed the first half terribly. It went from a 12-point lead to a 4-point lead in a matter of like 30 seconds. I started to have a little bit of heartburn, like, here we go again with kind of, but we got down by as much as 6, not as big a comeback as Texas, but we got down by as much as 6 on the road. But dude, defensively down the stretch, Oklahoma was very, very good. We actually out-rebounded Arkansas 35-29, which has not been the case. The scoring was more spread out than compared to Texas. Fears had 16. Jalen Moore had 13, including a big dunk at the end of the game. Goodine had 9. We did have 4 more turnovers. And it's plaguing both the men's and the women's, is this turnover situation. Oklahoma is they're not even good turnovers, if such a thing exists. They're bad turnovers, like throwing the ball out of bounds or throwing it straight to the other team. And if they want to continue to be competitive, they got to get rid of that. We are
got to clean that up.
At aforementioned A&M tomorrow at 8 p.m. I think A&M's gettable, though, right? Y'all got them. And even when they were up 22, they're only 4-3. Oklahoma's currently 2-4. I think A&M is gettable. I think it's even possible that OU might play better on the road. A lot of their games they won in the non-con was Michigan was at a neutral site, Louisville was at a neutral site, Arizona was at a neutral site. Our home team, our home crowd sucks. I don't know that our home crowd is any big advantage right now. And so potentially, maybe they rally together on the road. The energy helps them play. That's kind of what I'm going to try to bank on anyway in my mind. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I'm having a little bit of hope here. You play really, really good defense. You win on the road. Go get a win at A&M, and we can start talking OU's back on the right track.
Yeah. And it's nice having a superstar freshman like Jeremiah. It's hard to rely on them sometimes because they're young and they're going to make mistakes. Same with Trey Johnson for Texas. But, you got a guy like that, you always have a chance.
Trey Johnson's a first-round pick, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Is Jeremiah Fears first round?
I think so. I think he is.
He's a really good player. I think about, this is us being old, but you think about the good players at both of our schools that were there for so long, 3 and 4 years, like what Fears would look like 3 years in the system.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you think about what Buddy Hield was able to do, Hollis Price was able to do. Now, Hollis never got that NBA look. Jeremiah Fears is more talented than a Hollis Price, but Hollis Price is a really good player.
He's a really good basketball player, though. Yeah.
I think he's still on the Houston staff. He still looks like he's 17 years old. Dude never ages. The ageless wonder. All right. Let's talk. First of all, last time we did not thank our sponsors, Kevin. They got on to me. They threatened not to pay the bills. So we got to talk sponsorship here.
Okay.
Our title sponsor is and has always been Brown O'Haver, public insurance adjusters who work for the insured, not the insurance company. So you've had a loss to your home or your business that requires you to be out of the building or out of your residence. You want to call Brown O'Haver, 405-735-5510. They routinely get their clients 30 to 40% more money than you get on your own. If you've already filed the claim and you've already been paid an amount, call Brown O'Haver. There is no fee unless we increase the claim. It is a no-lose proposition. You have Brown O'Haver take a look at the claim. If they can make you more money, let them do it. Get paid. Brown O'Haver, 405-735-5510. Kevin, who are you in for today?
Say that one more time.
I said, who are you in for today? Who are you reading for today?
I, John, am reading for Pioneer Roofing. Listen, we had a major hailstorm back in September. If you think you may have been affected by this hailstorm, give Pioneer Roofing a call. They'll go out to your house, jump up on the roof, inspect it, let you know if you need to file a claim or if you don't. Maybe you have no damage. They'll let you know that too. Nothing to worry about. 405-549-2712, Pioneer Roofing.
Yep, Paul, it's a good time to get a roof done before the hailstorms hit. The last thing you want to do is be doing it during hail season, have to get 2 roofs. It's a big pain in the butt. All right, NFL. Kevin, do you want to start with the controversial or maybe not so controversial Bills Chiefs, or do you want to start Eagles Washington?
Now let's start with the Bills and Chiefs. That was just a bigger game, more anticipated game.
I got to start with just the personalities real quick. You and I were texting back and forth. I have Chiefs fatigue. It's not a secret. I think I talked about it almost all year. It's not really Patrick Mahomes, though. Patrick Mahomes, I admire his greatness. I was a little bugged in the Texans game with the flopping, like that got a little stupid.
Yeah, not a fan of that either. He's too good to do that.
You didn't see any of it in this game. He heard the lesson. You didn't see any of it in this game. He's a great player, man. He's an all-timer. He might be the greatest quarterback of all time, even if he wins this. And I love Tom Brady, but my God, he's really, really good. Travis Kelce has worn out his welcome. I mean, yeah, listen, he's an all-timer. He's super good. He's super talented. Probably the best tight end in the playoffs of all time. I don't know, Gronk had some good ones, but I don't even know if Gronk was this good in the playoffs. But it's just too much, man, with the yelling and the jawing. And I was glad that Jordan Phillips, OU Sooner, popped that dude right in the face with his face mask. Like, I'm glad he just stood up and said, I'm sick of it too. And then the stupid stuff after the game. I don't think I'm unreasonable when I say that I'm done with the Travis Kelce. I don't think that's like some major crazy take.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Kind of the antics. Especially, I didn't like him taunting after the getting into Damar Hamlin's face. He didn't do anything wrong. He just tackled Patrick Mahomes as he was crossing the goal line.
Dude, he didn't even.
There's nothing dirty or anything about that. Because if there were, trust me, the refs would have thrown a flag if there was. So to get up and taunt the guy, and it's interesting. He taunted the guy, nothing happened, and Phillips responds. You know how it is. They always catch the second guy. But
I'm fine. I'm fine with it. Well, real quick, and then the second thing I want to bring up, and then is the 50-50 calls. So as a whole, I don't think the refs were that bad. Like, there wasn't anything egregious. I watched most of the game. I don't really even remember a roughing the passing call being even called. Do you? Was there even one called?
No.
Or like hands to the face or anything? Like, I don't think there was any of that called. But it was the quick whistle on the 50-50 calls, and they seemed to all go in Kansas City's favor. I'll give it to me, the biggest example. Well, I think the biggest example was the fourth down play. But other than that was the play that Xavier Worthy made on like a 5-yard line. First of all, great play by Xavier Worthy. He comes from out of nowhere to make that catch in quotation marks. But I don't know how the referee is able to give him that ball like immediately. It was like
the lineman who's from behind. You would think it's the line or the back judge who's from behind, coming from behind the play. How could you even see who had the ball there? And to say that, the ball hit the ground and nobody appeared to have full possession of it when it hit the ground. So to still just instantly say it's a catch and a first down. Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, the problem is too, is review is set up in such a way that it has to be just indisputable evidence to overturn. Okay, that's so. But if you make that call so quickly, then you're really putting the review team in a really bad position. Yeah. What are the rules on tied balls? Do tied balls go to the receiver?
Ties go to the offense.
Okay, it was close. It was close to a tied ball, but that's fine that it goes to the offense. But it just was
when the ball hit the ground. When the ball hit the ground, which you can do if someone has possession, but it looked like they kind of both had their hands on it when it hit the ground. So I was surprised that they kept that as a catch.
Okay, you were going to say something before by the way, Xavier Worthy had a great game. I'm not.
Yeah, man, he's been really good.
He looked really good.
He's been really good for him. And, you talk about teams drafting smartly, right? There's just no other team that was a better fit for his skill set than Kansas City, just with the creativity of Andy Reid. He was in his bag. That first drive for Kansas City, just some of the RPO stuff that they were doing.
How about Hollywood Brown coming back off of injury?
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy in the same receiving core.
Man. Just wait till next year. If they bring both those guys back, if Hollywood is healthy, we get full speed Hollywood. Because he's back, but he's still working his way back into form after missing the majority of the season. If you get both of those guys at full strength week 1, that's a lot of speed, man.
Absolutely.
And even Whitworth, they haven't really been using him deep. They've just been using him on stuff across the middle where he can pull away from defenders. I think if both those guys are there next year, they're going to really try to go back to hitting the deep post and over route that they used to hit with Tyreek Hill, in addition to all the things. But I thought the creativity from Andy Reid on that first drive, some of that RPO stuff, we've seen a lot of RPOs over the years, but he was some really RPOs. Usually you have one read, you have the run read, and then you have one passing route read. But they were having combinations with 2 routes. So they would fake the run or show the run. They'd have a swing pass to one of the receivers, and then they bring Hollywood Brown behind it. So the Bills, their eyes were just all over the place. Call it eye candy, right? You see the run, you see the swing pass, and then here comes Hollywood Brown coming behind you if you're a linebacker. It's just too much to handle. So yeah, shout out to Andy Reid for his creativity.
Andy Reid, and then Mahomes to execute it at the level he executes it at.
You just know, and once you get into crunch time with him, he is not going to make a mistake. He's going to make the right decision every time. Every time. And then that play, to seal it, it's, what's the 3rd and 9?
Samaje, Boomer Center, Samaje.
Yeah, it's a great call there, just having him come from across the formation like that while bringing the receivers across the middle to pull the defenders, just sets up a natural pick. Yeah, so just a great design and great execution there. And that's the thing about it, right? Sark is so talented at creating and designing plays like that, but that execution that you get from someone like Patrick Mahomes, it just makes him unstoppable, right? It feels like we're watching Jordan in his prime, which you and I both had the privilege of seeing, where it's like you have a great team, but you're not going to win because the other team has that guy. And that's what Patrick Mahomes appears to be. Think about who he's lost to in the playoffs. Brady, his first year as a starter in the AFC Championship game in overtime. Okay. Brady again, when they were playing against in the Super Bowl against Tampa, and Tampa's stadium, home stadium.
Yeah.
Brady. And then they lost the one game to Joe Burrow, who was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That's it. He's beaten Josh Allen, who you and I both think.
I like Josh Allen.
Quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah, we both do.
I like Josh Allen.
0-4 against the Chiefs in the playoffs. That's tough, man. It's like Karl Malone.
On the Bills side of the ball, I thought they chased points early.
Yeah.
You and I texted that at the end of the first half. The decision to go for 2, I thought was unnecessary. Just take the point.
Take the point that early in the game. Yeah.
We've seen this with, like, I mean, the ultimate example of this is the comeback by the Patriots over the Falcons, right? You take the field goal, you've got time, things can happen, do the right things. You don't have to go there was just not a reason to change. And then if you are going to do it, look, you do not execute the tush push like Philly does. It's not the same. And I like Josh Allen. He's a big kid. Dude, if you're going to run Josh Allen, run him out of the shotgun. Give him some speed, some space to run.
Get ahead of steam there.
Let him get ahead of steam. Like, I'm not advocating that play either, but under center and just moving to the left and then trying to pick it up, it wasn't very good. So I didn't love that. So I thought the creativity you saw from Kansas City, you did not see from Buffalo, but what you saw from Buffalo was just some gritty play. Like, Josh Allen was gritty. We talked about James Cook at the opening. He was gritty. That Hollins kid made some great plays.
He did. That throw, it was a great throw down the field for that touchdown, too.
It was a great throw.
In hindsight, right? Should they have ran the ball more? I know they were chasing the game at one point.
No, they should run. They should have run the ball more.
James Cook, 13 for 85, 2 touchdowns, 6.5 yards a carry.
Well, and they kept. I don't even know who's 29 because they kept having 29 come in the game for him.
Yeah, I can't think of his name, but I know who you're talking about.
I think he's a rookie. That's fine. You spell him, but yeah, no, I think you could have ran the ball more, especially in that last drive. You had time after they kicked the field goal. You could have gone a little more run on that 4th down play. I thought that was a great call by Kansas City to blitz the corner.
Yeah.
Kincaid, a drop? You consider that a drop?
Yes, I mean, it would have been a tough catch, right? It would have been a very difficult catch to make, but one that he is capable of making.
Yeah. That would have been a hell of a catch. It would have been.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not too, kind of like the way I feel about Josh Allen today. He didn't do anything to lose in the game, but it wasn't one of those performances either where he's like, hey, jump on my back and I'm going to lead us. We've seen guys do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it would have taken last night. I just wonder, man, for Buffalo, how long is this window open? I know it's open anytime you have a guy like Josh Allen. He's so talented, but you can never take for granted. Kind of like what I said with Texas, you can't take for granted you're just going to get back to this moment again,
No, man.
right?
They feel like they're the Knicks. That's what it feels
Okay,
like to me. Like you're
yeah,
watching the Knicks play. And Patrick Ewing is Josh Allen, and he's a really, 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 really good player. He's going to make the Hall of Fame. He's going to be a top 50 player of all time. But he can't just go win a game like Patrick Mahomes can. Like
correct.
that's the difference. And you said it. We are watching Michael Jordan right now. As much as Tom Brady is the GOAT, when it's all said and done, Mahomes will be the best quarterback to ever play the game.
It certainly seems that way. It certainly seems that way, and
All
yeah,
right. Okay. So
the
that's
cheese fatigue is real, but I am appreciative of what I'm seeing. I think you are too. Even if you're
I
fatigued, you can be fatigued and still appreciate what you're seeing with it,
I
Patrick
am, but
Mahomes and Kansas
I
City
was
Chiefs.
going for the Bills, and I'm
Yeah, I
going,
think if you poll most of America, I mean, most people were going for the Bills just to see something different.
and I will be going for the Philadelphia Eagles, who beat Washington 55-23. I think Washington had 5 turnovers. Is that right? Something crazy like that. 4 or 5 turnovers. Saquon Barkley, 15 for 118 and 3 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts with 3 rush touchdowns. Here's the problem if you're Washington. This is the stat that stood out to me. Jaden Daniels had a good game, not a great game, 29 and 48, 255, touchdown and interception. He cannot be your leading rusher with 48 yards.
Yeah,
Not in the
and
NFL.
they try to run the ball too, right? Sometimes when you see a coordinator like Kingsbury, you can accuse him of being too pass happy. I think in the first couple drives, now they opened up throwing it just to get Jaden Daniels into a rhythm, but they were trying to control the clock. And that first drive was great. I mean, they're just doing it's kind of like the Notre Dame drive against
Yep.
Ohio State, where they just control the clock and just kind of dink and dunk. We're getting first downs. We're converting 3rd and 4, 4th and 4. We're going for it. We're converting. To get all the way down the field, were you surprised that they decided to kick a field goal on 4th down once they got all the way down after they had already gone for it twice on 4th down on that same drive?
Well, of course, yeah, absolutely. That, and I would think the analytics would have told you to do it. And it just, you're on the road and you're the underdog. You gotta go for it, man. Like
I
I was
completely
shocked
agree.
by that.
Completely agree. So you get the field goal there, but I think if you're a Commanders fan, it's like, oh man, this is a great defense we're going up against. We go straight down the field and score on them. We might have something going here, and that good feeling was erased by Saquon Barkley in one play.
Yep.
I mean, what an incredible run that was. First of all, I love the design, bringing the flow of the play to the right and then pitching it to the left with 2 blockers pulling out. All he has to do is make one move, break one tackle, and then he's in the open field. And for him to be able to stop and then just cut it to the right like that and accelerate, this is historic level stuff from the running back position from him.
I
He's one of the
look when
greatest, most talented guys we've seen at that position.
I'm so happy that he's getting a chance to play in the postseason. Like he's I don't know the guy. None of us know anybody, but he seems like one of the good guys, right? He seems like one of the guys that has done everything right his career. He was a good soldier for the New York Giants, despite how awful they were as a franchise and continue to be. He's never gotten this chance. He maybe one playoff game, but you weren't going to do anything with Daniel Jones. And I'm excited for him to be in the Super Bowl. This is the kind of talent that deserves to be in the Super Bowl. Like this is who you want to see. And when I look at the Eagles, they don't have. I mean, Jalen Hurts isn't Patrick Mahomes. He's just not. But don't they just have a feeling of a bigger, nastier team than Kansas City?
Yes, they do. They do. And they're the more talented team in this game.
You think they're more talented in
I think
addition
they're
to
more
being
talented.
bigger, in addition to being bigger and stronger?
Yeah. I think they have a better roster overall than Kansas City does. That
Oh, okay.
Kansas City obviously has a better quarterback. I mean, obviously, but the better running backs are Philadelphia. The better receivers are Philadelphia. The better offensive line is Philadelphia. The defensive line, I might have to give that to Philadelphia too. Chris Jones now is the best player out of both teams on the defensive line, but the Philadelphia's defensive line is nasty. Jalen Carter, this dude is unbelievable. Second-year player out of Georgia. And again, we knew that. He had some off-the-field stuff. That's why he slipped to number 9. He might have been so talented.
But he didn't have a great rookie season. There was like people questioning him last year.
Yeah.
They questioned him this year.
No, not at all. The dude is he's virtually unblockable. Just is such a talent out there. And then how many snaps he was playing? He already came off the field, so which shows the level of conditioning that he has. So, yeah, it's a lot to deal with from a talent standpoint. And if you're Washington, you had a great season, but you just kind of got ran up against a buzzsaw. It would have taken. First of all, they would have had to play a clean game, right? And when you're getting turnovers on well-designed pass plays, and the receiver's trying to do a little bit too much, gets stripped, turn it over, Philly goes down and score. Then the kickoff, you fumble that late in the second quarter when it's still a close game, and then they go down and score a touchdown. It's over. That was it.
You wanted to talk tush push. Thoughts on the goal line situation with the Eagles and Redskins in the tush push?
It just seems like I get the play. I get why Philadelphia runs it. They're the only team that run it, and I think everybody else hates it except them. Right? And then that whole situation down at the goal line when Frankie Luvu kept trying to jump the snap. Yeah. And the referees talking, acting like our moms growing up, threatening to turn the car around.
Yeah.
Right.
So did you see Good Morning Football this morning?
I did not. No.
Kyle Brandt, who I reference sometimes, he's the angry runs guy. In addition to being a real world vet from MTV, you knew that, right? It's on the real world. I
did. Yeah.
So he's awesome in so many different ways, but he said that he did the research, and it is indeed a rule that they can award points. That if it's deemed that the defensive team continues to do something outlandish and illegal for the sake of delaying the game beyond control, they can award points. He said, in all of our research, we haven't seen a game in the NFL where that's actually happened, but there was a game in college that they found video of it happening. Now, this is a pretty famous play. I didn't think about it until he showed it. Any guesses? And it's obscure and famous all at the same time. Any guesses?
Is that the one where the guy came off the sideline and tackled?
Yes.
Yes, I've seen that play.
So it's like the night. Yeah. No, I think it was TCU in Alabama. It was either Rice.
I thought it was a Texas school.
I think for some reason it's TCU. Hold on just a second. Let me see. No, I think it's TCU.
Okay. I haven't even thought about this in probably 30 years. I was such a nerd as a kid. I used to read sports books, and I remember reading about it. I don't even know if I've ever seen it.
Dude, you're the man. That's why I love doing this podcast with you. Okay, so yes. And so they actually have the video. They showed the video, and sure enough, the TCU guy is breaking wide free down the sideline. Dude comes off the sideline, no helmet, right? Comes off the side, takes his knees out. I think Kyle Brandt said the guy got hurt in the game. Takes his knees out, and then hops back up and runs to the sideline like he's not going to get caught. And they awarded a touchdown.
Wow.
As far as
here's the thing, though. Go ahead.
As far as the tush push goes, it's hard to say to Philadelphia, don't do it.
Yeah.
But I think the competition committee might get together and say, okay, we can't push the ball carrier. That's been a rule before, right?
It has been a rule before, and because we remember the Bush push.
The Bush push.
USC versus Notre Dame, and Matt Leinart pushing Reggie into the end zone to win the game in South Bend. But, it was illegal then. They didn't call it. And, they recently brought it back to being a legal move that you can push, but you cannot pull. My thing that annoyed me yesterday is if you're Jalen Hurts, if you're at the 1 yard line, why are you doing a hard count? Why are you doing a hard count?
Yeah,
You're just gonna, why are you
because
trying to draw them off?
he's a butthole, Kevin. We know this about him. He just is. He's an arrogant butthole, and I don't know. And to your point, it's odd. The whole thing is odd. And if I'm if I'm a Washington fan, I got no problem with it, dude. Just keep jumping. I mean, y'all gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep doing it.
I
It
didn't
got
think he was trying to delay the game. He was trying. That play is so hard to stop, and he's like, the only way I can stop it, we can stop this, is if I time it up, jump over the pile, and tackle Jalen Hurts in the backfield before he can get underneath
yeah.
and into the goal line. That's what I don't think they were trying to delay the game. But
No,
quit calling hard counts. He's not jumping off.
the whole thing was. You're right. The whole thing was infantile, and the refs treated it like it was infantile on both sides of the ball. But I am all for the competition committee going, maybe we stop pushing players. Like, it worked well for a really long time not pushing players. Let's just go back to that, because nobody likes it.
No,
nobody
outside of Philadelphia likes it. Nobody.
Now, if it comes down to them beating Kansas City with it, I'm going to be for the tush push. Just telling you that.
Root for that. I get why you are, especially with Jalen Hurts being
the. Are you rooting? You're rooting for
I'm not rooting for anybody, man. But no, I can't root for the Eagles, man. Come on.
I can root for the Eagles. Lilia can root for. So my daughter Lilia, big Eagles fan. When Nick Foles played the Patriots and beat them, her sister picked the Patriots and she picked the Eagles. And I said, whoever wins gets a hat. I'll buy them a hat or a T-shirt, whatever they want. And the Eagles won. And dude, since then she's been locked in, like Eagle fan. She watched this. Yeah,
7 years.
Oh yeah. Well, they've been pretty good though. But anyway, when they went to the Super Bowl against Kansas City, and I think I've talked about this on this very podcast, she did not deal well with the loss.
Yeah.
It was real tears, man. It was real tears.
Being a sports fan. Tell her this is what it is. And it'll be like this for as long as she's a sports fan.
I had to go up to her room and legit dad console her. Like, hey, I've been there. I know what this feels like. It hurts. It's going to hurt for a while. And I was like, they're a good team. They're going to have another shot at it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm having this conversation about the Eagles. I expected at some point to have this conversation about Oklahoma. But I'm sitting here having this conversation about the Eagles, which was kind of weird. But I'm going to support my daughter, and I'm going to support. But here's the problem. The problem is, Kevin, there are Sooners abound. This is the second year in a row where the Sooners are the most represented school in the Super Bowl. 8 Sooners, not including, it's 9 if you count Brant Calcaterra, which I don't know, maybe you can, maybe you can't. But 8 for sure that graduated from OU or ended their career at OU.
Yeah.
Is Xavier Worthy the only Texas Longhorn?
No, we've got Moro Ojimo, who plays for Philadelphia, defensive line.
Nobody's heard of this guy, Kevin. That doesn't even sound like a real person. That sounds like you just mumbled a name out there.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
But he plays for the Eagles?
Plays for the Eagles.
I'll be rooting for him in 2 weeks. Let's go, Mojo Jabojo. Let's get it. Lock in. You wanted to talk way too early mock drafts, first-round mock drafts. You said that there's some Texas players in the draft. No Oklahoma players? Let's start there. No Oklahoma players?
First round. No Oklahoma players, and this is his first iteration of his mock draft. He'll probably do 4 or 5. Daniel Jeremiah.
Yeah, Daniel Jeremiah.
Yeah, of the NFL Network. He's their top draft guy. He's a former scout. I think he was a scout for the Eagles and also for the Ravens.
He's good. He's good. He's legit.
Yeah, he does a really good job. So, and he'll also release a list of his top prospects. The mock draft typically is based on what he's hearing from people around the league. So we'll just kind of run through this real quick. Let me put this up on the screen. So we talked about Abdul Carter from Penn State. He's got him number 1 to the Tennessee Titans.
Okay.
He believes Abdul Carter is the best player in the draft and obviously a premium position. Number 2, Travis Hunter to Cleveland.
Oh, that sucks for Travis Hunter.
It does. It does.
It's going to suck for anybody that goes number 2.
Correct. So, and he likes Travis Hunter as a full-time receiver who moonlights on defense. I'm curious to see, and I think that so many different scouting departments are going to have different opinions on where he's best used. They're going to be some that say, okay, we want him at corner as a part-time receiver, and they're going to be some that say, hey, we're going to play him at both almost all the game.
Let me explain what the Cleveland Browns will do. Whatever the wrong decision is.
Probably.
The only person ever to be excited about being drafted by the Cleveland Browns was Bo Callahan. You get that reference, Kevin?
Callahan. I don't.
You get that reference? Draft Day, Kevin Costner.
Yes. Great
movie. Actually not a bad movie. The only person who I thought was weird was Dennis Leary as the head coach. That didn't jive.
Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah,
that didn't jive. That didn't make any sense.
Was that worse than John Voight as a Texas high school football coach?
I love John Voight as a high school football coach.
Okay, me too. No. I just wanted to see. In theory, it sounds weird on the surface, but he did a really good job.
Oh, listen, I never thought that was a bad decision ever. John Voight as a Listen,
we had John Voight and Billy Bob Thornton playing Texas high school football coaches and doing a good job.
We grew up in Texas. We were around those football coaches. My guy in TAP was Haynes. Is that right?
Oh man, it's been so long. I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure. I can't think of his first. The only reason I know his last name is because he was married to like my 10th grade history teacher, and she was like 4'11", and he was like a big old offensive lineman.
Yeah, I love that.
Anyway. Yeah. I digress. Okay, good luck, Travis in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Cam Ward to New York. That might not be a bad spot.
No, I don't think so either. And they got to have a quarterback. Obviously, Daniel Jones, they released him, so yeah, they need one, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. Will Campbell, offensive lineman, LSU. They really like Drake May in New England, and got to protect him, right? So, Will Campbell, Mason Graham at pick 5, defensive tackle out of Michigan to Jacksonville. Outstanding player and a great pick here. And then 6, the Raiders, Shedeur Sanders at quarterback. A whole new regime coming in, right? They hired Pete Carroll as their head coach. Tom Brady is involved in the ownership. So, yeah, I'm sure they'd love to bring a big-time quarterback there.
What a great situation for Shedeur to get Pete Carroll. I mean, say what you want of him. He's an adult.
Correct.
You look at this guy like Jacksonville just hired, and you're like, I don't even know what the guy's name is, but the press conference looked goofy as all get out. You're not getting that from Pete Carroll.
Correct. Not at all. Tyler Warren, tight end for Penn State. I mean, just an incredible player, and somebody who I think will be a fan favorite for the Jets. I mean, the Jets, we know what they are about. Very inconsistent, or they are consistently bad. But they don't have a terrible roster. We got to obviously figure out quarterback, what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. Just don't see there any quarterbacks that are worth taking at 7 if Cam Ward and Shedeur are gone.
So okay, spoiler alert, you're saying Quinn is not in the first round?
Quinn is not in the first round.
Okay.
No, what Texas players?
Okay, let's go. Let's get to some
Tedero McMillan, Michael Williams at 9, Tyler Booker at 10, Armand Mimbu at 11 to San Francisco. Ashton Genty to the Dallas Cowboys at 12. I think that's a great fit.
You like that?
That's a great fit. I would absolutely love that. Yeah. I would. I mean, they've got needs elsewhere.
They love to draft running backs in the first round, man. And
the Cowboys are so unserious as an organization right now that I only want to see things that are fun. That's all I care about. Seriously, I wish they would have hired Kingsbury as a head coach, because at least it would have been fun.
More fun than Schottenheimer.
Last year being boring and bad. Yeah. Brian Schottenheimer, come on, man.
Dude, you stopped watching their game. You stopped watching their games mid-season. Cowboys.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like you were done.
Yeah. All right. Here's our first Texas player, Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive lineman to the Miami Dolphins. Got to protect Tua.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. You got to protect him, and this guy is giving up 4 sacks in 3 seasons. So
Best offensive lineman you've ever had?
In my opinion, yes. Yeah, we've never had someone who came in. I mean, he started game one as a true freshman. His second game of his career, he went up against Will Anderson and Dallas Turner and gave up 0 sacks as a true freshman.
I remember that game. That was, yeah.
And I was so nervous for that. And we lost the game, but it wasn't because of that.
Nope.
At all. So, yeah, he's going to be a great pro. He doesn't have ideal height. So I'm not sure if he'll play left tackle or he may even play right tackle or maybe even inside a guard. It doesn't matter. The dude does not give up pressure. He's going to be a great pro. Looking forward to that. And then they've got Jahdae Barron going 14 to the Colts. And, he's a guy that can play, who's proven to be a playmaker at nickel, at safety, and at corner. So with that kind of versatility, plug him anywhere you want to, and he'll do a good job for you.
He'll see the field for sure.
Will Johnson, Michigan corner, super, super talented guy. Jalen Walker, Texas, we all know about him. To Arizona at 16. Walter Nolan to Cincinnati. Kenneth Grant, the other Michigan defensive tackle to Seattle at 18.
Listen, real quick.
Yeah.
As an Oklahoma fan, just projecting next year's schedule, I'm seeing a lot of dudes leaving. A lot of the teams we're having to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Michigan's losing their top 2 defensive linemen. They're going to be top 18 draft picks.
That's like what I was telling you. And they've got a third guy who's really talented too, who's going to be drafted in the middle round. So
I mean, you're losing.
Yeah, they're losing a lot.
Texas is losing their their best defensive player. You like Makuba, but both of them. I mean, you're losing this guy.
Makuba's gone too.
Well, I take that back though. Colin Simmons' problem. Who was better? Who'd you think was better? I know they play different positions, but who was more important, Jahdae Barron or Colin Simmons?
Probably Jahdae Barron.
Yeah, see, you're losing him and Makuba, and then you're also losing the anchor to your offensive line, and that seems to be happening. Oklahoma is not losing guys like that.
Yeah. Michigan losing 3 defensive linemen. Jahad Campbell, again, Alabama, you play them next year. Nick Amenwari had to pick 6 against you guys.
Yeah.
He's gone from South Carolina. And then the third Texas player in the first round, Matthew Golden.
Really?
I'm a huge fan of him. Look,
I know you love
after the Ohio State game, Daniel Jeremiah said, I just studied the tape on Matthew Golden. He might be the top receiver in the draft. That's after he studied the tape on Matthew Golden.
It's interesting that he's got Emeka Egbuka there out of Ohio State. I would have just my brain would have gone to Egbuka. I just can't. Maybe it's because I'm just too familiar with Golden. I didn't see first round from him, but you're saying you agree with this. That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I see him as being late first, second round. Yeah, he's a really good route runner, and his hands, man. I mean, some of those passes he was catching in the red zone, contested throws, he's reaching up on tight coverage and just bringing that down the ball. So for a guy who's not, 6'4", he's 6 foot, 195 pounds. So yeah, I'm curious to see the draft process with him, especially when it comes to the combine, how he runs. I think that's going to make the difference. If he can run the 4.4s, I think he can go in the first round. Colston Loveland, another talented Michigan player, gone. Shamar Stewart, A&M. Malachi Starks from Georgia. I think that's 4 Georgia players. Luther Burden, former OU commit, Missouri receiver, super talented guy there. Again, you talked about players who teams that OU are facing next year. It's another one with Missouri. And that's already 2 guys from Missouri that we've seen in the first round of this mock draft. So, just wanted to show you the 3 Texas guys. Again, TJ Sanders, also, he had the touchdown on the fumble recovery, the scoop and score against you guys. So another guy who's gone. Of course, James Pierce, you guys have to go up against him at Tennessee.
I think there's something to be said about that. All these teams will reload to some extent. Alabama,
most of them will. Not all of them will. But not everybody.
You're losing. Look at South Carolina. Look at the players South Carolina's losing.
Correct. And we haven't even mentioned. I don't think we even saw Kyle Kennard yet. He's gone too. He's in the Senior Bowl. coming up this week.
Okay, one last question before let's close with this. Some Oklahoma City Thunder talk real quick. The Thunder are 37-8, number one in the West, best record in the league. Why are the Mavericks a bad matchup for them? They're 1-3 on the season. Their only win coming in cup play.
That is a really good question, right? We've seen the Thunder be overwhelmed by size, and with this last game with Dallas, they didn't have their bigs, right? No Chet, no Hardenstein. And I think the size on the wings for Dallas gave them a lot of trouble. PJ Washington, who turns into Superman when he plays against the Thunder for whatever reason. 22 points, 19 rebounds.
He's like a modern day Robert Horry when he plays against the Mavs.
Yeah.
The Thunder.
But then with the rebounding, he looked like Dennis Rodman. And this is a guy who's 13-8. I mean, he's 6'6". He had 19 rebounds. So,
who are the Thunder trying to guard him with?
They had a few different guys. They had Jalen Williams, J-Dub on him.
Just couldn't block him out?
Yeah, just had trouble getting him off the glass, man. I mean, obviously Gafford has good size. But, Dallas was also out. I mean, obviously Luka's out. And who's their guy? The young guy from Duke. I can't think of his name. I'm talking about the rookie.
I can't think of his name.
7'1", Derek Lively. He was out too. So it was just an interesting matchup, man. But what I do like is it's becoming a legit rivalry, right? And these games are pretty intense. So I'm curious to see what happens if they face off in the playoffs again. Hopefully the Thunder are at full strength. Hopefully both teams are at full strength. Yeah, I want to see what happens if the Thunder have Hardenstein and Chet in there, if they can keep them off the glass better.
Growing up a Spurs fan, I never liked the Mavericks, so this is an easy team to hate. Now, I hated the Rockets more.
The Mavericks were not a threat. They were horrible in the 90s. They were hurt. Steve Nash. Mark Cuban took over. They were a joke, man.
I didn't like them though. They were never a team I rooted for.
Yeah, correct. They were just there.
Rolando Blackman, Derek Harper, that group. It was the Rockets. Exactly. We hated the Rockets. That was the rivalry, right? The I-10 rivalry or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's cool. The Thunder, when they first came here and got good, it was Memphis. That was the rivalry.
Yeah.
Were you here? Were you living here when they were going hard?
When I got here, I mean, Durant was already gone when I got here.
Those Memphis games were just brutal, man. Like it was so fun. Oh God, who'd you have? Who was the big guy?
For Zach Randolph.
Zach Randolph, and then the guard from Ohio State. Is he still playing?
He is still playing.
Dude, listen, he played old man basketball 10 years ago. He played like 13 years ago because I was watching a playoff game when my daughter was being born against the Memphis Grizzlies in 2011.
I saw him at Ohio State in the Elite Eight against Memphis in San Antonio at the Alamo Dome, 2007. I was 23 years old, man. I'm 41 now. Mike Conley was in that game. He was so.
It's great. It's great. Anyway, all that to be said, that was the rivalry. I like the Dallas rivalry better. Luka's so easy to hate.
Oh my goodness, he is.
Oh, he's the best.
Can I tell you what happened last year when we were going to one of the playoff games, and we parked last year, just south of the Omni Hotel. So we're walking up, and we passed by the Omni, and the Mavericks bus is there, and the players are getting onto the bus. And Luka comes out, and there's a bunch of fans there. They're roped off, and Luka goes over. And he literally signed every fan's autograph who was waiting there.
Oh, what a dick.
I'm like, oh, what are you doing, man?
I hate that guy. What a jerk.
And then this fan kind of breaks through the barricade and is running over there. The security grabs him, and Luka's like, no. And he's halfway on the bus. He comes back off the bus and signs that guy's hat, too.
Oh, I don't need to hear that.
Doing, man?
Kevin, I don't need to hear that.
I'm like, this is the most conflicting moment ever. Like, I hate this guy. And here he goes and signs every fan. The Thunder fans, too. He just signed, whatever. Yeah, that's fine. I'll sign everybody's autograph.
That's
Despite
terrible.
the fact that the bus is waiting on me to go to
Dude,
the
I want to hear him with sunglasses and just like I have no attention to what's going on over here.
Correct. Yeah, I want him just to act like you don't even exist.
Yes.
Fan.
Clearly that's
yeah.
Oh, whatever. Kevin, great show. Hopefully next week. Well, I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know what the right time frame is. But at some point, Oklahoma might or might not hire a defensive coordinator. We'll be here to cover that. We'll be here to preview the Super Bowl and talk about basketball. Oklahoma and Texas both need wins. There's a couple of good opportunities coming up for both teams in the next week. So we should be able to recap that.
Real
and
quick
what's
with
going
basketball,
on.
right? I know we both
Yeah.
have programs, and I think we both believe that our basketball programs may have limited upside, right? Like I don't think Texas has the potential to make the Final Four or even the Elite Eight. I don't know what you think about Oklahoma, but I will say it's something about the fact that the teams are playing really hard for their coach, even though, with Porter Moser, he might be a lame duck coach, according to some. But I do appreciate that the players are out there giving it their all, because we have seen players quit on coaches before at the collegiate level. So I don't know what the upside is, but shout out to the players. The coaches at least still have the respect of their respective players.
Look, Oklahoma plays some defense. And to your point, the first sign of quitting comes on the defensive end. They out-rebounded. I think I said they out-rebounded Arkansas, which it hasn't been the case all year. Rebounding is a hustle stat and defense, right? You can't – it's either effort is there or it's not. And so from that standpoint, Porter is getting out of his guys that effort. And to their credit, they haven't given up. They're playing hard. And, I mean, dude, I'm an OU. I want them to turn this around and get going. Like, let's do it. You got two good chances here against A&M and Vanderbilt. However, I think on Oklahoma's side, I think they're limited by the coach. I really do.
And that's the point I said. I think the upside is limited with the coaches.
I think
there's a limit to what. Yeah,
you think Terry's the same?
I like Terry. Yeah. I think there's a limit to what he can bring. I think the level was a little bit higher with Chris Beard. I've seen Chris Beard take a team to the national championship game.
How's he doing it? How's he doing at Auburn?
Good. I mean, Ole Miss is ranked. I mean, they've not,
Oh, he's at Ole Miss,
not undefeated. Yeah, he's Ole Miss's coach. And so very interesting.
And
Texas playing him. Correct. Now it is at Oxford.
And I already did my rant about Chris Beard being a weirdo and not surprised.
Yeah.
And all that. So, okay, we don't have to rehash that. For John's rant about Chris Beard, go to the last episode where Kevin looked smugly and a little bit judgmental at my take on Chris Beard. That's okay. That doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me. I ain't scared. I'll bring my takes, Kevin.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever. Kevin, have a great rest of your week. Boomer.
Okay.